Welcome to our podcast about business talk. And today I am super excited to have a very special guest, Francesca Krachai, right? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Whoa, child. Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive.
Francesca is running a successful business here in Dubai, and you were also event organizer in the past.
In a past life.
Would you like to talk a bit more about you?
Sure, I'll give a bit of background. I've been in the UAE now for 16 years, coming up 17. I know I don't look it. My background before starting a business here has always been business development, predominantly in like the conference industry. I changed about 10 years ago into live events. Obviously, Dubai is well known for a lot of their large-scale events. And then for 10 years, I worked in the large-scale event industry, predominantly focusing on government events. So a lot of big launches, the Burj Khalifa, launched the Dubai Tram, Dubai World Cup opening ceremony. I recently just did, last year or the year before, the launch of the new Blue Line for the RTA. I still do occasional freelance. I try not to. I feel I'm too old for the stress of 19-hour days and the stress of it.
And now you're running successful barbershop, a high-end barbershop, right? It's such a transition from big events to the barbershop. What kind of, what makes you to decide to transition from totally different
Well, it
industry?
wasn't an intentional decision. Basically, I met my now business partner 8 years ago. I was working in events and he was a barber and a really phenomenal talent. And even to this day, everyone's like, why did you go into business with him? And still to this day, I will say that he is the most passionate and hardworking person I've ever met. And I knew nothing about the barbering industry and I still don't claim to know a huge amount about it. I just thought barbering was cutting hair short. It turns out it's way more complicated than that. And he grew up in a family of barbers, was very proud of his heritage, of his skill. But like anything, to set up anything in life, you need money. And I had been successful in my career. He didn't have necessarily the ability to financially do it. So I said, let's do it together. How hard can it be? Turns out it's significantly more difficult than you think to not only set up a business, but to set up in a business which is an alien industry. Like
exactly.
An alien, no idea what I'm doing. But the one thing that was to my benefit is that obviously having worked in business development for 15, 20 years before, is that I knew how to negotiate. We knew the venue we wanted. So I just walked in there one day. I was like, I want to speak to your facilities manager.
So just so our listeners understand, it's not just a regular barbershop. It's a very high-end. What's the price for haircut in your barbershop?
Well, a haircut with Carlos now is 1,100 dirhams.
How much is that in dollars?
$300.
$300.
Yeah. The cuts range from kind of $40, $50 up to $300. We're not. I would say that we started off as a barbershop. I think now we're definitely a brand that really represents the male community in the UAE. We have a very diverse range of client base. Both me and Carlos, my business partner, are hugely passionate about actually what we're doing in the business, which is, and I think this is why I was so interested to work with Carlos, is I was like, do you like being a barber? He's like, I love it. I said, really, why? He said, do you like your job? I said, I like the money. I'm not sure I like the stress. I said, I like accomplishing something. I like recognition. So I like it when everyone's like, amazing job. I like that part of it, but maybe the 6 months of stress and in the build-up to a big event, not so much. He said, I love what I do. He said, because every single day I make people feel better about themselves. And I was like, wow. Imagine like how good you would feel every day if that's what you were doing for people. And so it's become a journey that we have made so many mistakes. We still make loads of mistakes. It's only been 5 years. I make mistakes daily because there's no rule book. There's so many books out there about how to run a successful business. But unless you're in it, unless you're in the trenches, it's so difficult to navigate.
And actually, when I was in my 16th I actually went, I dreamed to be a hairstylist, and I went and I finished 3 years.
Really?
College.
I never knew that about you.
Yes.
And that's the thing, people are like, can you cut hair? I was like, not at all, but I'd be a great barber. But to get to the level we've got as a team would take me like 10 years. I don't
And
have
the reason why I stopped, because I felt like, oh, it's not going to generate me enough
The
money.
problem is there's a massive social stigma, I think, especially, I think it's a global thing. And it's something that Carlos is very passionate about, and he talks a lot about on our social channels, which has seen a massive increase across our 3 social channels to nearly 700,000.
Yeah, your social media is quite impressive.
Yeah, we've got up to like nearly 700,000 followers across the 3 channels, because Carlos really passionately talks about barbering is a skill set, and it's something that takes years to learn, and it should be a craft that people are proud of. But because of the socio-economic stigma of, oh, he's just a barber. No, he's not just a barber. You know, for thousands of years, barbers have been a pillar in society, and he's really keen on spreading this message about barbers. Elevate your game, share what you do. It doesn't need to be, you know, there's enough people in the world to cut hair for everybody. You don't need to kind of ring fence what you're doing. And I think the business is obviously progressing into a different kind of community now, as we have built this community. We've been very vocal about the roles of how barbershops can play a role in men's mental health, which I think is a topic that is not discussed at all. We have been really proactive in our conversations around that. And I think also for me, stepping as a woman into a man's environment, it's so interesting to see what these... I'm like, is this all you guys talk about? No, in all seriousness. We have a real wide range of clients, ethnicities, backgrounds, religious backgrounds.
Yeah, especially in UAE, where people from all over the world.
Yeah, there's so many different people. And you know, it's interesting because obviously we've had clients from day one. Our staff have been with us since the beginning. And, you know, you go on a journey with your clients. You see them meet partners and get engaged and get married and sometimes get divorced and have children and have loss and bereavement, and you're with them because as a woman I don't think we have the loyalty that men have towards barbers. It's a really interesting dynamic because it's almost physically one of the closest relationships they'll have with another man because of the proximity of where the barber stands. So the stuff that the clients talk to the barbers about, I'm fairly confident they don't talk to their friends about it or their wives or partners. It's almost like they can come and just talk openly without judgment. And so about 2 years ago, we really saw this, especially after the pandemic, that a lot of clients are really struggling with being isolated, especially single guys working from home. So people would come to the barbershop with their laptop and just hang out and work and have a coffee and chat.
Talking about pandemic, you know, I used to be a hairdresser when I was like 16, 17. I only worked for 1 year and then I forget about it. And then during pandemic, when everything was shut and we were just having a wine with friends and my husband is like, you cut my hair. Can you believe it? Since then he refused to go to salon.
Yeah. Do you know how many people when we when the barbershop was reopened, I think we were closed for like 5 weeks and we reopened with a lot of strict protocols. The amount of clients that came in where their wives and girlfriends had tried to do the hair and be like, bro, can you fix it? It's like, no, what have you done? Like, you need to wait a month at least, let it grow out. Like it's hacked off at the back.
Yeah, and talking about pandemic, we've seen so many businesses literally died and they couldn't survive and they couldn't make it. But in you have such a, like your business cannot really, you know, you could not work online like we did. Yeah. So did you go through the difficulties or it was easy for you?
No, it was horrific. It was horrific because we opened in September of 2019 and that whole year of 2019 was a very challenging year because I underestimated what it takes to open a barbershop. I was the project manager doing the fit out because I figured I'd build events. How difficult is it to build a barbershop? It's actually quite difficult, especially if you don't understand about MEP, which I now know about. So any contractors, they can't bamboozle me. It was also a year that I was pregnant with my first child, so I was doing all of this heavily pregnant, and then we were delayed with the shop was meant to open in May, and it was delayed because of a billion reasons.
Yeah, not surprised.
Yeah, and then we didn't open until September, so I gave birth in May and then was on site 4 days later with my baby, shouting at the contractor about why the floor hasn't been levelled. And then we opened in September and I had no idea how to run a business. I didn't know what a POS machine was. When we first opened, I was on reception, Carlos was the barber, there was the 2 of us. And I was like, would anyone like a coffee? I had no idea, trying to use the till. And then in March, was it March? I think it was March. We'd only been operational for 6 months. I think we had 5 staff at that point. When we closed down, I knew we had enough money to pay everybody for 5 weeks, and after that point, we had no money left. So me and Carlos made the decision to make sure that we paid the staff. We didn't have any money. So it was borrowing money from family to pay for groceries. And then when we were closed, I was like, if we don't get some cash in, the business is going to shut. There's no way we can operate. I'd managed to get the rent delayed, the trade license up for renewal, the DDA supported me in that. So I knew I didn't have any other bills other than I had to find a way to pay staff. So I came up with this idea that I was going to send out an email to all of our database, because we had loyal clients and they liked us, and saying that we're going to be reopening in the next 10 days, because that was the information we received. But you can book and pay for your haircut now to guarantee your first slot, because we're going to be working on a limited capacity. So when we sent this out, I think that it was two things that made it work. One, I think people genuinely liked us and saw, you know, two people had just started a business and were struggling. And so they were like, sure, I'll book 5 haircuts in advance. And then genuinely, I think that people were like, I want to just get out of the house. And that revenue that we brought in over 4 days allowed us to continually pay the staff. So there was no break in the pay for the staff.
Yeah,
and
this
that
is
was,
very great marketing tip. I always teaching business owners, we call it reactivation campaign. All you do, what you just described, you just, you know, if you have a database, imagine many business owners, unfortunately, they don't keep the database, and this is the biggest mistake.
Yeah.
So what you did, you had a database, right? And you send them literally emails, and you try to collect some cash up front. This is,
and it worked. It worked, and we got a lot. I mean, it was enough to pay the staff. So I was really proud that, and I think our staff, and I think that loyalty that it brought the staff, because they saw that how much we were personally struggling, because we didn't pay ourselves, that we were having to borrow money from family to buy groceries, but we paid them, and we did good by them, and they've actually stayed. You know, those members of staff are still with us now, because they saw, like, it brought us together as a team, like we're in this together.
As a family, right?
Yeah. So when everyone got back to work, everybody was like, let's make this work. And it was a proud moment. It was very stressful. I wouldn't want to go back to that period, actually.
Yes, of course.
I don't know what's more difficult, the business or being in lockdown with a 1-year-old. I'm not quite sure. Both equally shit. But now, you know, and I think that you learn from these things and realise that even if something does happen outside your control, there's always a solution. You just got to think what it is. And I think so many times people in business always look towards the problem. I'm like, well, don't focus over there. What's the solution? Figure out the solution. Because there's always some solution. And I've got a lot of team members that sometimes maybe aren't the best in critical thinking. They know who they are. And they're like, but I don't know what to do. I was like, but imagine if you did know what to do. What would you do? If you were to call someone now that had the answer, what would they tell you to do? Because most time people don't want to work through the process of figuring it out. They just want the answer on a plate.
Yeah, but it's not happening. And I think businesses who survive and strive, these are the ones who actually know how to solve the problem.
Yeah, and I think I got the problem solving from events, to be honest, because the amount of problems on an event
and the stress.
Yeah,
right.
you know, it's we don't have this. I'm like, there's always a solution. We just have to figure it out. But you can't figure out solutions usually if you're in panic mode.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing, I think why we've got to where we are, is that when we opened the business, we never ever thought about the financial side of it. We never thought about making money. We just had a vision.
Passion.
It was a vision. Carlos wanted to make it the best technical barbershop in the country. I wanted one thing. I wanted to run a business and treat our staff the way that I would like to have been treated in previous companies. That's it. Pay people on time. Pay people fairly. Don't waste people's time with money. Don't mess around. Don't try and be nefarious. That's it. And even now, 5 years on, I'm sure we could have much more money if we didn't put it all back into the business and into, you know, yacht parties for our staff, which is my excuse, just to kind of hire a yacht and put it through the business. But in all seriousness, like, we do put everything back in, and I think the team recognise that.
Yeah, that's very important, because the team is also the most important bit of your success is from your team.
Well, if you don't have a team,
right?
you don't have a business. I think so many companies fail to recognise this.
Yeah.
Or they don't care. Because for me, it's like, you know, I look at the guest services point of view, which is really important to me. And everyone's like, oh, but you know, I'm like, yeah, of course. This business could make more money if I decided not to serve all of my clients Aqua Panna and San Pellegrino and Lavazza coffee beans. Absolutely. But I'd rather my clients that come in have an experience that is memorable, down to the fact that we serve probably better coffee than most coffee chains in the UAE. And I take pride in that. Yes, it's a cost, but it's also an experience. Yeah. And I think that when you're a retail business, I think people forget about the experience.
Yeah. To be honest, when I go to salon, always go to salon where I know I have a good coffee, a nice atmosphere.
And I judge it, I judge it because I go to salons. I mean, they don't, the guys are great with men's hair. They're not great with women's hair. And I go to other salons and I'm like, can I get water? And I'll get some warm water in like a paper cup. I'm like, but you're charging me a premium and that's...
Yeah. I actually always like to pay extra. For the services.
Yeah, 100%. So, absolutely we could have maybe been less, I don't know, maybe it's just, I'm an empath. I'd like to help people. I want people to feel genuinely happy to work for us and to be proud to work for our brand and what that represents. And I feel that they do, to be honest.
Yeah, and so did you use like any strategies or it all just like a natural...
None. I wish we had, because if someone asked me what were the key things that you did to get to where you are now, I would just say we never gave up. It was relentless because the business is open 7 days a week, 10 hours a day.
So you worked without weekends?
Yeah, no, I haven't had a weekend in years. I mean, I have a weekend, but there's always something.
Oh no.
And it's really tiring and it's really draining and it's a very physical job, especially for the barbers and for Carlos. You're on your feet 10 hours a day. And, we're humans too. We have bad days, we have personal lives, we have things that happen in our lives, but the business continues. I just think we just threw a lot of passion into it. I think I truly to this day believe that Carlos is one of the most talented barbers in the world. And I stand by that. He's one of the greatest educators. He can take somebody who is an average barber and escalate them to somebody that is recognised in the industry. And when you work with someone who's so creative and so passionate and has no clue operationally, it's perfect because I trust him. I'm like, he does all our social media content and I know nothing about social media. So I don't step into his world and he never steps into my world.
Yeah.
He's like, you lead, I follow, and vice versa. So for 5 years, I don't think we've ever had any conflict on a decision because he makes his decisions based on his scope and I do mine. And I think the only thing that we come together for, which is a challenge, is recruitment.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge even for us. Yeah,
it's really difficult.
That's why I always feel like we have a team members who's with us since 2018, and some other business owners keep telling me, Vera, you pay a lot, but I rather pay a lot and I have a reliable staff.
Yeah.
Rather than,
and that's the same for us. And I think we've changed our strategy because we've made, I honestly think recruitment is just such a good luck. I mean, it's either going to work or it's not. But the mistake that we were making at the beginning, which we've changed now, especially with the barbers, is that we were hiring for technical skill. Now we hire for will. Carlos like, show me somebody that wants to learn and wants to work. Give them to me for 1 month and let me show you what I can do. So now we hire barbers based on their mental aptitude, their emotional intelligence, what they feel about the industry that they're in. Obviously, they can cut hair, but then they'll go into the Carlos training school and then...
Yeah, it's interesting. It's also strange that I don't follow like any structure when I hire someone. I just look at my intuition.
Yeah, and you know, it's really funny, right? Because actually, and Carlos won't mind me saying this, he's a really bad judge of character. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but Carlos sees the best in everybody. And I'm a pessimist, so I see the worst in everyone. And so Carlos was like, I really like this person. I'm like, there's something not right about it. I've got a tiny little red flag about this person. I can't figure out what it is. And there's been notably 3 occasions where Carlos has gone, no, trust me. Just going to say, my red flag. And I was like, told you. He's like, you're so right. He said, I'll trust you with the recruitment now. And actually, we've been very fortunate that the recent people that we've brought in have been really good and, are really happy to work alongside Carlos and myself and learn. But yeah, I wish I could say there's a structure. There isn't.
Your business has one of the highest Google reviews.
Yes.
How do you make it consistently, or the customer satisfaction? I know it's not easy. And you always have good reviews.
Yeah, because I think we care so much about the quality. We don't care about the money. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. There's been many people that have complained because we're humans, we make mistakes. The thing is with businesses, I think especially in Dubai, and I will call this out, if you've made a mistake and somebody's not happy, all you need to do is show some empathy, apologise, rectify it, and give them their money back. I don't know why so many businesses just get this, oh, sorry. No, it's not good enough. So have we had 1-star reviews? 100%. But I call the person. I personally apologise. I'm so sorry. How can we fix it? And then I never ask them to remove anything. But then they're so like, I can't believe I've had a business that's dealt with me in this way. And then they'll change it to a 5-star review, because even though they might have not had the experience they wanted in the shop, the experience afterwards. Now, that honestly happens about 6 times a year. I'll tell you why. It's been ingrained since day one that all the barbers, they see Carlos doing it, and I think the greatest thing that you could do as a business owner is lead by example. I will never ask a member of my team to do something that I'm not prepared to do. Like, people see me, I'll sweep the floors in the shop if the team are busy and I see something he's doing. I make coffee for clients. I'll tidy it. I'll clean the stations. I'll gather the wet towels. I don't care. It's my business. And I think that they saw Carlos, and Carlos is, you know, he's like, you happy? He's like, could you leave us a Google review? He's like, put a 1 if you want, but we'd really appreciate it. And I think the team are just organically doing it. And then a lot of the new clients come, they see the Google reviews, and then they come and go, are they real? And then they come like, man, I thought they were like fake. Like one, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to leave a review as well. And so it just kind of success builds on success. I think we're at like, what, 2,500 5-star.
And Google now start deleting fake reviews.
Yeah.
So if anybody
we had a couple of fake reviews. We had other barbers that worked in other barbershops leave fake
Yeah.
reviews. But they do it with their own names. I mean, it's not the smartest thing to do.
Ever feel like you're not getting the recognition you deserve online? With Pulse Growth Reputation Manager feature, you can easily collect hundreds of reviews from happy customers. Our review AI automatically sends requests and reminders to Google and Facebook reviews. Monitor all reviews from one dashboard and manage your online reputation confidently.
Common sense is not common sometimes. But yeah, we work really hard on we don't work hard on asking people for reviews. We work hard on the service that makes somebody feel like they want to leave you a review. And I think that's the difference. If you go above and beyond and make somebody feel special and looked after and they have an exceptional service.
Yeah, so for any business owners, don't underestimate Google reviews, because there's
We
still
get so many clients from Google.
so many businesses still ignoring it. And
So
still
many.
Not doing.
I mean, I looked at the analytics of how many people went on our Google profile. I think last month it's like, what, 11,000? Like,
Yeah.
and people go through the reviews, and people have even put in comments. I've just been to CG. I didn't think the 5-star reviews, but having been there, and people write long essays about how this cut made them feel, because, you know, I think that everybody, if you don't feel good, if you don't look good, you don't feel good. And I think especially with men, it's probably easier as a woman with makeup and whatever to kind of...
And especially men, like my husband would never probably write any review, just because he is this person who never even speak on public or social media. So it's really interesting that you're still managing to get good reviews out of your customers.
And then we have the Fresher platform, which is the booking system, which also captures reviews. I think we're on about 3,200 5-star reviews. And the good thing with that is obviously you can only leave a review if you've actually been...
If you've been a customer.
So there's no fake. You don't have that issue of people leaving kind of fake reviews. So I think, across the board we have about 5,500, 6,000 5-star reviews. And then our social media channels, which have grown exponentially, probably in the last year and a half, when Carlos started to really change the content of the videos we were doing. Before, I think you can fall into this kind of trap of going before and after. But he, and actually we've got a lot of the guys in the TikTok offices, for example, that have their haircuts. So, there's it's like a directory of people that come into a barbershop, because there's so many people in different industries you can pick their brains. And that's how we started the TikTok channel, which has now grown to, I think, 350,000 followers in a year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw your TikTok. That's awesome.
And that was from one of the guys on TikTok that said to Carlos, like, the algorithm's different, the content on Instagram won't work, you have to find something. And that's how he found the ASMR, which is the sounds of cutting hair, which are really takes so long to film and edit, so he doesn't do them that often. But he just posts one now, and it's crazy, the views, like 13 million views on one channel, 38.5 million on the Instagram channel. It's, I don't know, I think that there's authenticity, to what we do, and I think people really appreciate the openness that he talks about the industry, what he's trying to achieve, and it's taking the business now probably in a different direction. We're definitely not going to have any second locations or third locations. But as a brand, we're now developing different revenue. What's
your plans? I know you shared something in the past that you were planning to open another branch or maybe some product line.
I mean, honestly, for me, because I deal with all the operational money side of it, for me, I don't think, when you have a business like a barbershop, unless you're successful, your margin is a profitable
Yes.
business to have. The problem is in Dubai, number one, Dubai is geographically quite a small place. So if I open a second barbershop 6 kilometers away, I'm just cannibalizing my existing clients. They're just driving less distance. I've also doubled my operational costs for the first year. I then got the biggest challenge, which in my business is recruitment. So then I'm going to spend a year trying to recruit people. For what? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's best to just improve where you are and make it better.
So I'd rather improve. I mean, we've expanded twice on the physical location where we are. And also our location's perfect. We're in Media City. We've got free valet parking because men are quite lazy. They don't like to park. We've got a great relationship with the Rotana Group who support us. Business, so for me, it's like I see so many other barbershops like expand very quickly and then...
Yeah, so what I'm seeing as well, so many businesses opening up in Dubai, and a year later they just
shut. Do you know why? Should I tell you why? Because I think so many people focus on gimmicks. Like, there doesn't need to be a gimmick. You don't need to serve an ice cream at a barbershop. You know what you should do is really think about what is the core service that you're offering. Focus on that, the core. Don't worry about everything else. Like, when we first opened, I wasn't serving Aquapan and San Pellegrino because I didn't even think about it. I mean, we served, like, you had a nice cup of coffee, but it wasn't... we had an espresso machine and that was it. But, what the core is, you're coming for a haircut. You're coming for the best haircut to make you look good, which is not just a haircut, it's a consultation, how you're greeted. That experience. Just focus on what your business is. I think so many businesses look to others for inspiration. There's a difference between inspiration and copying.
Yeah.
And so there's so many Frankenstein businesses where you're like, oh, that's part of that business and that, and they're smushed together. And it's not authentic. And that's why everyone always says, like, who designed the barbershop? I said, I did. These are all my designs. I am
impressed. You have such a nice design and authenticity. And I wonder, how did you, is it because of your job with the events?
Yeah, I
or
think
how
so.
did you came up with the concept?
I was really lucky to work with some phenomenal creative directors. I've got a really clear eye on what I like. And when we were designing the barbershop, it's really funny how we came up with the colour. There's a bar in London near Charing Cross called the Arches, and underneath it's like this really old bar, and it had this great bar, and it had this beautiful dark grey walls. And I think grey is such an underused colour because it actually can be a really warm colour. And when I was working with one of my designers who was a freelancer, I used to work in events, and we were designing it, she's like, what we're going to do? I was like, right, I'm going to try and find a picture. Let's make it look like a really old gin bar. Like, I want panelled walls. And she goes, what colour? I said, like, a dark grey. And then we just started to build on it. And, like, if you have... Because I've worked in events, I've been really fortunate to work with some phenomenal creatives. And you start to learn that you can do something in just one colour, but it's about textures and it's about lighting. And then I've got loads of people that I know. So, for example, when I had to do all the lighting in the new expanded shop, I've got 2 dB units. I've got so much lighting. I was like, oh, my God, I don't know what to do. So I called my friend Jerome, and he's a lighting designer who just did the Olympics and he comes out to UAE for big projects with, like, Cleef Van Arpels. And I was like, when are you next in town? He's like, oh, I'm here in 2 weeks. I was like, you want to come for a haircut? So he came down and I was like, can I give you my lighting plot? He's like, of course you can. So I got all my lighting plot. So he was having a haircut and a coffee. And I was like, how do I do this? Because I need to have this lighting. And he's like, okay, you need 4K, 3.8, and taught me all about lighting. So I then went to the contractor to do that. They're like, how did you do this? I'm like, resources. I've got people that I can take a DWG file and I can get them to throw it into SketchUp for me. So I just use my network. And I've got enough people that build big events where I can call them and be like, quick question, what's the current market price of gypsum board? Because I know my contractor's trying to...
Yeah, I always say my network is my net worth.
Yeah.
And it's really helps with businesses.
And also I did, a part of my job in government events, I negotiated all the contracts and with the finance team. And if you've ever worked with government procurement departments, negotiate with contractors is easy peasy because you've learned all of the things from SLAs and everything else. So... I think I definitely took a lot of that skill set. I think design-wise, I'll be honest with you, use Pinterest. I use Pinterest. I'm open about it. Pinterest has got not barbershops, but interior design. I saw these beautiful interiors where it was all these different like shades of grey and the different lighting, and then leather. That's why we've got that big leather pillar just to bring some texture. And then like it's really fun to do. Like you just see inspiration anywhere you go. I'm like, oh, maybe I can do this. But then because it came from me, it's authentic. I didn't look to what other people were doing. Obviously, it had to have functionality in terms of how it works. And obviously the equipment, we use Takara Belmont, which is a Japanese brand, very well known. But the rest of it is just, I don't know, like imagine just decorating something and being like putting all the things you love.
Yeah. Also, I know you have a quite organized already business. I mean, when we talk about automation, operation, you have booking system, you have social media, you have. But when you started, did you had all of this, or you do everything manually at the start, or you were so organized from the start?
No, I wasn't organized from the start. You know, the thing is, it's funny because the way that I operate, I've got ADHD. But I use mine as I use mine as super. I can multitask at a level that most people are like. How are you actually talking to me, typing, and then like sending an SMS? I have a memory beyond what I can remember everything. Like I can see a car number plate and then like see it 2 weeks later. Like, oh, I saw that car recently. I don't think people do the same thing, so I can remember a lot of things. And I'm old-fashioned. I'm pen and paper. I don't have a system. So when we all started the barbershop, when I say I didn't know what we were doing, Vera. I think Carlos assumed I knew this. He's like, okay, and what's the plan for like the stock? I said, what stock? He's like, the shampoo. I was like, do we not just buy it from Carrefour? He's like, no. I was like, do we not? He's like, are you joking? I was like, no, are you joking? Like, what do you mean? He's like, no, these are the brands I want. I was like, I've never heard of them, but how do I find them? And he's like, just contact. I said, contact who? The distributor. I said, what's the distributor? Like, I didn't know anything. I genuinely thought that barbershops just got like Carrefour shampoo and put it in a fancy bottle. But one thing that I did, which was really critical to the business before we opened, is I hired a freelance finance manager to sort out all the VATs who were VAT registered. So I spoke to her and I was like, what do I do now? She said, have you found the product you want? I said, yeah. She goes, well, what payment terms are you going to have? I said, what do you mean? She goes, no, that comes from, you have to. I was like, what? So that was like, So she put that in place. But at that point, her scope was quite small. And I'm ashamed to admit this, but I had no forecasting, no tracking thing. It was all up here, and I had a post-it. I used to write a post-it note, and then I'd try and calculate. I'd be like, okay, who do I need to pay this month? Okay, I've got this one, got this one, I've got this one. And then as the business started to get bigger after 2 years, it started to get really overwhelming and stressful because there was no Excel. I don't work in Excel. There was nothing. And so I said to the accountant, Safi, I said, Safi, I think I need to increase your scope. You know, she's like, okay, sure, no worries. She goes, what are you currently using? Like, are you using QuickBooks? I was like, post-it note. She's like, what? She's like, but how are you forecasting? I was like, in my head, I'm forward forecasting. She went, but is it written anywhere? I was like, no. She's like, that's terrifying that you've run a business for 2 years off a post-it note. I was like, oh, yeah, it's worked. But now we have a much better system. So, listen, we always had the booking system. That was good. We had no other system in place other than me writing things on post-it notes and sticking them everywhere.
Yeah, it's good. And what would be your advice for those who are just starting? Would you start system from the day one?
Yes.
Or you think it's...
Yes. Yes. Start your system from day one. My advice going into business, you will spend twice the money you think you're going to make, that you're going to spend in the first year, and you're going to make half the amount of money that you think you're going to make. You're going to really regret doing it at certain points. Just get your systems in place, and I'll tell you why your system's important, and this is why having a barbershop's good. We have a client that comes in, and he is the head chef at Heston Blumenthal's restaurant in Atlantis, the Royal. Really nice guy. And I love cooking, so I'm always like talking to him about my recipes. He's like, yeah, I'm like a 2-star Michelin chef. And I'm like, quick question, when you do a bechamel, what cheese? And he's like, Google it. But I said to him, I said, I'm really fascinated about Heston Blumenthal's business because he's managed to maintain 2 Michelin stars for how many years? What, 15 years? I said, how does he do it? He said, one thing, process. He said, even as creatives, right, even as chefs, he said, the process inside that kitchen, there's no noise. It's like, he said, once you figure out your process and you streamline your process, the success will come because everybody's in the right place doing the right thing at the right time. And that was like, ooh, I need to sort out the business. So now we have a really good procurement system. We have good communication channels. The team have weekly updates. I've got a new operations manager that's also supporting that.
Angie,
So I'd say just start it from the beginning. You're going to make loads of mistakes. You're going to make mishires. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned in 5 years, which is a very difficult thing to learn, you have to look into yourself. A lot of times I would get really frustrated. I'd be like, oh, why didn't they understand me? It was my mistake.
Yeah.
Because I communicate assuming everybody thinks like me. Well, if everybody thought like me, then everybody would do as I do. So I would say 90% of the miscommunication in the business is because I've not communicated myself clearly and effectively in what I expect my staff to do.
Yeah.
I just say, can you do this? And then they do it in an entirely different way. I'm like, but why did you do it? Because I didn't communicate it.
Yeah.
So you have to really, I think, if you go on this journey, is you have to either hire a very good therapist, a very good business coach, and look, really, because I mean, for me, for the first 3 years, I just spent my whole time like reacting to things, and now I try and respond to things.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and some things do need a reaction, but 99%,
Yeah.
you can just respond.
I learned also while building our businesses that when you explain something to your staff, it should be explained in a way that a 5-year-old would understand.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, just don't expect people to read your mind, because they can't.
And it's so funny because I used to get so frustrated, and then someone said, but it's your mistake. I was like, why is it my mistake? It's like, do you think you communicated it effectively? And I'm like, maybe not. So, you know, it's a constant journey. And I don't know, I'll finish off by saying I did read this one thing which I thought really struck a chord with me, because I don't always enjoy running a business, and I take the responsibility of, you know, we have 17, 18 staff, and I'm responsible for making sure that they get paid on time every month, and that money is to support their families, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And it can also be a bit daunting. It can kind of make you wake up in the middle of the night. And there was this quote somewhere by this guy, and I can't remember who it was, but he said basically owning a business is like riding a wild lion. Everybody's looking at you on the line going, wow, look at him on the line. And you're on the line going, how the fuck do I get off? How did I get on the line? How do I get off? Oh my God, I'm going to die. So the perception of people from the outside looking at you might be like, oh my God, but internally, most of the time you don't know what you're doing. You're trying to do the best. You're trying to juggle things. You're also trying to have a private life. I'm trying to raise a kid. I'm trying to, you know, live my life as well and not be a slave to the business. And it's really difficult to balance it all.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, is the balance, work-life balance.
And at some point you do have to say, like, no, I'm laptop down.
Especially, I think, for us women, it's really hard because of the other responsibilities.
I think it's really hard as women. And I think that women put too much pressure on themselves. I have to be a homemaker, and I have to make pizza dough with my son after school, and I have to run a business, I have to do this. And now I'm just giving myself a bit more of a break. It's really tough. It's really tough. And actually, I grew up with my mum and dad owning a business, and I saw what went into it. And we were very fortunate to have, you know, a comfortable livelihood, but like at what cost?
Exactly. Yeah, people have also a wrong idea. They think that running a business, it means you're going to have more time to your family, to yourself.
Less.
But yeah, I realized that because I used to work for a corporate, and then when I started working for myself, I realized, shit, I'm working 24/7.
And the thing is as well, you know, when you work for someone else at the weekend, you're like, bye, see you on Monday, laptop down.
Yeah.
I mean, in events it's slightly different, but I didn't think about work at the weekend. Now I'm just like, oh, let me check this. Oh, Miss Francesca, quick question. This client's come in and he's asking it.
Yeah, sometimes I miss those days when everything was paid, my holidays.
I do, and then people are like, oh, you know, I need to check how much holiday. They're like, oh yeah, but you're lucky, you can take as many holidays as you want. I'm like, yeah, but I'm I go on holiday and I'm like constantly online. But then at some point you also have to cut your purse strings a little bit and let your children run with the business and delegate more. But it's scary.
If you need to start everything from scratch, would you do this again?
No. No, honestly, I wouldn't. I think I wouldn't, because I think doing it in such a different industry is so difficult. The learning curve is... Would I do something maybe in events? Yeah, maybe, which was my experience. But this... Would I do it again? Looking back now, I wouldn't. And that doesn't mean that I'm not really thankful and I don't love what I have. But the last 5 years, it's been tough. Yeah. I think the next 5 years are going to be tougher, but because I think I've got the business to here in 5 years, having no clue really what I was doing. Now I know what I'm doing, so I'm like, ooh, I wonder where I'm going to be in 5 years from now. Because if that last 5 years was just through passion and hard work, and the next 5 years is more thought through.
Yeah, but then you can kind of withdraw you out of the business and hire people. Now you have a capability, and
that's
then maybe
the
you
plan.
can.
But would
this is the time to relax.
Would I do it again at the age I'm at now? No. Too old to have the energy.
You're not.
Would I do it again? No. I wouldn't, because it's just, I don't think people understand how hard it is and how much of your life it consumes and how it becomes everything about you. And yeah, I do miss sometimes corporate. You do.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just saying that today because I've had so much drama to deal with stupid people not doing things. So maybe if you catch me on a different day, I'll be like, 100% I'd do it again. But as you know, with business,
it's a roller coaster.
You never know.
That's for sure.
But
yeah. What would be your advice to those who are just starting business in the beauty industry and they have the dream and passion, but they don't have enough resources or money to go big? What would be your number one advice?
there are a lot of people who are investors. There's a lot of people who are private people that do have money, that see money in the beauty industry. I think the biggest problem is there's a lot of people that don't work in the beauty industry that set up a beauty salon with nobody in the inside experience. If I'd have set up this barbershop without Carlos, it would have failed within a day. If he'd have set up the business without me, it would have failed within a month because we would have run out of money. So you need to find somebody who has your passion in what you do, in what they do.
Yeah.
And I think just don't focus on the money. Focus on doing the best you possibly can, and the money at some point,
Yeah.
inshallah, will come.
Yeah. And what's the most rewarding moments you find from all this hard work you've done?
I think the little moments when when I look at what we've built sometimes, I'll be in the shop and it's like super busy. Like there's like people, it's just packed. And there's people laughing and I look around and go, God, I built this with him. We've built this community where people enjoy coming to be here. And I think when you have people like Esquire magazine reaching out, when you have these brands reaching out, you go, that's a really big brand. Like they know about us. And it's just kind of like, wow, we did it, or we're doing it at least. And like when we get people down, that are like maybe notable figures in society that come to the shop and they pay because everybody pays, and you're like, wow, we're doing something right.
Yeah,
and it kind of
really cool.
and it pushes you to keep going. Or when you get one of your videos that goes viral, it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing. Isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, I always feel like fascinated when some customers just give me a good feedback.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, this is why I'm doing
Yeah,
that.
like we got a really nice 5-star review yesterday for one of the barbers, Siraj. I took a snapshot and I just sent it on the CG group. I was like, amazing review, Siraj, well done. And he's like, thanks so much. Because it was an amazing review. This guy wrote like a lot about the moment he was greeted and the coffee and the haircut and the consultation and how he felt about himself. And I was like, see, that's why we do it. It's not all bad.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Thank you so much
No,
for
thank you
your
so
time.
much.
And one last question I would like to ask, obviously being in marketing, there are so many businesses, they don't invest in marketing. They believe more in referrals, recommendations, which is a very good tool. But for you as a business owner, I know you have already existing database, you have referrals, recommendations, but you still advertise on the top of that. You're still investing in advertisement. So what's your thoughts on that? And at what point actually you guys understood that despite of all the things you build and you have salon full of people, you're still investing in advertising?
Because I think that it's all about a digital footprint. You know, I organised this conference, this is like years ago. It was about social media. This is like literally 15 years ago, before Instagram even existed. And this guy said, and I thought, I don't know, he worked for a big brand. And he said a negative review is like someone pissing in your swimming pool. You can't get rid of the piss, you can just dilute it. Mm-hmm. And that always stuck in my head. That if you get a negative review, just go out and get 10 positive ones. Just dilute it. And so for me, we've got this massive reach of social media, but there's always going to be people that don't like what you do. So the stronger your digital footprint, the more people that put eyes on your business, the more opportunities. You never know what's going to knock on your door. There might be some guy in America who sees a TikTok video and is like, I want to open a CG in New York.
Yeah.
Who knows? But unless you cast your net very wide, you don't know what opportunities are missing.
Yeah.
And always remember about the piss in the swimming pool, because it is true.
That's a really good.
It's true. You can't take the piss out, you can just dilute it.
Yeah, because I have customers sometimes like, Vera, we got this bad review.
Yeah,
what do we do? Can we delete it? I'm like, no,
just dilute
get the good
it.
ones.
Go and get some good ones and it'll just disappear.
Yeah, that's right.
So there you go.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank
It's
you
been a
for
pleasure.
having.
Thank you.